What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 234th episode of the Pokemon Podcast. It's super effective. I'm your host, SBJ, and we have Monster Hunter extraordinaire with us, Will.
While you were interrupting me while I was trying to gather Apsaros livers, I hope they're still there for me when I go back.
They'll be there. Ugh. They'll be there. We also have Pokemon Go addict, Travis.
Yesterday, someone tweeted at the three of us saying, just 2 more days, then with like an excited emoji. And I know for a fact, Will, because you replied to this person, but at least me and Will were flabbergasted trying to figure out, is there some big trailer that's coming out in 2 days? Or did I miss something and Pokemon Sun and Moon actually come out in 2 days? What happens in 2 days? And then they say, oh, well, the new episode of the podcast comes out.
I just couldn't believe that somebody would be so excited that they would have anticipation.
We're setting them up for disappointment now.
I'm so far removed from that kind of excitement for the show because I haven't been a consumer of it for
4 years.
Since high school. Yeah. More than 4 years.
I feel like I get excited for the podcast I listen to every week.
Oh, I mean, that's definitely the case. And I get excited to record this show, but cognitively, I'm no longer at a place where I associate this thing that we do every Sunday with a thing that people listen to, which is probably why I'm so brash about the terrible jokes I make.
That's fair. For our listeners, well, if you're a new listener, welcome. If you're a returning listener, or if you're a new listener, this applies to both. This is our show for you guys. We have a little bit of Pokemon news. We're going to be talking about the UBs. We're going to be talking about the Pokemon Generations stuff and 1 or 2 other things. And then, actually, the Generations will probably be the main topic because I feel like we have a lot to say about it, even though it's probably like 8 minutes of footage. And then we have our Pokemon of the Week. And if we have time, maybe we'll squeeze in some emails. But our show's been running like 2 hours long, and which is fine. There's no complaints there at all. It's just, if they run long, then it takes me longer to edit. And that's fine. It's all fine. Everything is fine. Travis, how was your fine week?
Pretty good, like you intimated at the start of the show. Now that I have Pokemon Go, I've been playing a lot of it. And as I've been playing more of it, what I've been surprised to see is that I'm not the only one. I thought that when Pokemon Go became such a huge phenomenon that, like many such trends, they would die off in a week or 2. But I see people playing Pokemon Go still all the time, and it's kind of cool. I didn't think it would, because typically when you have and granted, not as many people are playing it, and you hear people joking like, "Oh, you're still playing that game," but there's like a lot of people still playing it, and I found that kind of surprising. And I know I'm not supposed to talk about Pokemon in the What Are You Doing This Week segment, but it is the video game I'm playing.
I have a Pokemon Go story for you. As I was out running this morning, I came across one of my neighbors and was talking about my trip to Vegas last week, and he does like the World Championship Poker Series stuff, so he's very familiar with Vegas.
So he's consistently wearing a baseball hat and sunglasses.
No, but he said, oh yeah, and when you're in Vegas, they have Chanseys if you're still like into Pokemon stuff. And I was like, what's Chanseys? Is that some sort of store or restaurant or something that has like Nintendo theme or something?
Do I need to get myself tested when I come back?
No, but I was like, literally, like, what's Chanseys? And then I was like, oh, Chansey. You can catch Chansey in Pokemon Go in Las Vegas. And I was like, I am the biggest idiot.
Neighbor-wise, he clearly knew you were into the Pokemon.
Well, he's the top Pokemon TCG player in Washington, D.C., so...
And he just happens to be your neighbor?
Correct.
Interesting. All right.
Why is he not the co-host of the show?
You know that story.
I don't think I do.
Oh, yeah, no, right? I was number 1 for all that time, and then I went to a TCG competition and met this dude who's exactly the same age as me, and obviously a better player. And I found out his name, and then he became the number one player in DC. And then I'm like walking my dog down the street, and he's like walking up the street, and I was like, dude,
with his dog, and it's like
no, he doesn't have a
slightly
dog.
other dog than you.
No, he doesn't have
His
a dog.
name is
No,
Phil.
he literally lives. No, he literally lives 100 feet away from me. Like, not even a mile away, 100 feet away from me.
It's a small world after all.
It is.
He also drives a Mercury Land Rover. I don't know what you drive.
Stop. It's a Mercury Mariner. And he doesn't drive one of those either. He's a really nice guy.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is. I like to think that there's like a bizarro Will living 100 feet away from you, named Phil. Well, yeah, that
notice my lack of laughter here.
that happened. So, the only thing that's been new with me is we just wrapped the first episode of season 2 of Mythical, which happened on Tuesday on Twitch.
Do you say wrapped? Because that means completed, right?
Well, we completed episode 1. We wrapped.
I guess.
We wrapped that up in a package and shipped it. So yeah, my office is a complete mess because I am actually not in that season, but instead, well, Travis is back and Logan is back, and Jeff and I, which were 2 characters in season 1, we are no longer in it. For this season, we introduced my girlfriend, Irene, long, old time Pokemon podcast personnel, Aaron, who was on the first other person besides my voice, and Aaron was a staple of It's Super Effective for probably, I want to say, like 60 or 70 episodes, because Aaron was still on, Travis, when you were still on. Like you came on around episode 30, but
Yeah, there was some overlap,
yeah, and then we got rid of him.
yeah.
But no, Aaron's a super good friend of mine. I've known him probably longer than most people, and he moved to Texas, and so he's still very supportive of what I do, and It's Super Effective and everything. And after he listened to the first season of Mythical, which is subtitled Dungeons and Dragonites, he was like, "Man, I really want
Maces and Magikarps."
No, first season
2.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he was like, "Man, I really want to play D&D. I really want to do that." And Aaron and Irene get along really well. And Irene was a little like intimidated because she really wanted to do it too. So like having Aaron be there and them knowing each other as long as they did, I was like, well, they're both new players to D&D. Travis and Logan can obviously carry their own weight. And I think that those 4 would be a good pairing for a second season, and I think you guys did great. I don't know if you wanted to talk about it, Travis, but you were not playing your character you played in season 1. You're playing a new person.
Right. In season 1, I played Wendy, who I really like. I really liked playing that character. But when the prospect of season 2 came up, and the idea, when it was sort of set up in season 1 that these characters would likely be used again in further seasons, I realized that I would need some time off with Wendy before, because I had sort of envisioned her as someone who just has like a lesson to learn, and then the character is kind of done, is kind of wrapped up. And then that happened by the end of the season, so I needed some time to figure out what to do with her, so I decided I would play someone else for season 2. So I'm playing kind of, neither of them are very fun people to hang out with, but in opposite ways. They're both very domineering people, but in very opposite ways. Wendy is from the nobility, so she is very keen on letting you know she's more important than you, is the shorthand. But I'm playing Baruch this time, and I won't do the voice on this show. You'll have to listen to Mazes and Monsters to get that.
Mazes and Magikarps.
What did I say?
Monsters.
You're like the SBJ character who just can't get the name right. Oh,
yeah. Mazes and Monsters is the
anti-D&D movie that came out in the 80s.
That Mazes and Magikarps is a pun on. Anyway, Baruch is very loud. He thinks that everyone loves him. He doesn't like solving problems in any other way than smashing them. So it's a very different character than Wendy. So that's fun. It's also fun going from the serious character of season 1 that Wendy was. I mean, she was funny too sometimes, but to completely a comic relief character.
So may I ask a fan continuity question at this point? Yeah. So when you introduce the character of Baruch, you say that he's 14 years old, but then go on to say that he went to school with Stant. And
no.
Stant, well, the way that you described it, you said that he and Stant were like old school chums.
No, they didn't go to school together. We did not say that at all. No, when Baruch was young, he knew Stant. Stant was not young at that point. If you really want to get into the backstory, the idea is that so Baruch comes from this barbarian clan that has a tradition that when their kids turn 14, which Baruch is, they go on. They're sent off to live with civilized people for a period of time, so that they can learn why their clan chooses not to do that. So they can realize that while there's a lot of there might be riches to be found, and there might be a lot of luxury in the civilized world, that there's also a lot of harshness and unfairness, and then it's up to them to decide if they want to stay or not. So that's what Baruch is doing. But when Baruch was younger, he was very curious of things outside of the clan, and he would occasionally see this wandering druid named Stant Willow, which is Logan's character. And when Baruch was a kid, he would follow Stant around and kind of steal his things, thinking Stant didn't notice, but Stant just thought it was kind of adorable because this little child thought he was getting away with things. So that's the connection they have.
So yeah, that didn't come across at all, and it literally. Well,
yeah, we didn't get all the way into that. Yeah,
but yeah, it literally sounded like you guys went to school together and would like do hijinks, like stealing people's breakfast together.
I can understand, because we didn't really get into we haven't gotten into the full backstory yet that I just explained. But yeah, so I can see where that misconception would come. But,
yeah, because I was like, Stan has had several adult relationships, and he can't be 14 years old.
No, we've Logan and I have had the conversation of figuring out the friendship question mark between the two of them.
Yeah. So that's episode 1 is in iTunes. You can just search for Mythical or Mazes and Magikarps or Dungeons and Dragonites. Yeah, any of those terms will get you to that podcast in iTunes, or it's on SoundCloud or Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. So if you want to check that out, that's really cool. The actual episode starts about 45 minutes in. The first 45 minutes are them just making their characters and rolling dice and stuff like that. If you care to watch that live, it happens every Tuesday on Twitch. I think there's one week where it's going to be a Wednesday, but the schedule for that is on the Twitch page, twitch.tv/PKMNcast. So every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central Time. We had a pretty good turnout the first night. And so the reason I brought this up is because my office is a disaster, because I have so many monitors and microphones and cables going everywhere, because while Irene is in it, I still need to manage everything through OBS, and so I'm like running another monitor and all these cables across the room. So that has been my week. Been a mess. But yeah, that's how we made that transition to where we are now. I think that's good, right?
We made it.
We're here. We're here to bring you some Pokemon news. I lost my articles. Here we go. All right. First bit of news is there is a Pokemon Sun and Moon branded new Nintendo 3DS XL. That is going to be coming out before the games. Where's the date? Yes, that is available on October 28th. It is the Solgaleo Lunala Black Edition new Nintendo 3DS that will come out slightly before Pokemon Sun and Moon, which is November 18th, if you forgot. It will retail at the same cost as other 3DSs at $199.99 United States money. And it doesn't come with a copy of the game, because why would it? Because first off, it's coming out before that, and secondly, I feel like every special edition Nintendo 3DS no longer comes with games. Like the Monster Hunter one.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But definitely the X and Y special edition 3DS XLs did not come with a copy of the game. The Animal Crossing one did.
Yeah. I think the Majora's Mask one did not come with the copy of the game. Well, maybe it did. Huh.
Can we talk about how beautiful this new 3DS XL is?
It's okay.
I am kind of happy that they're only coming out with one, because with X and Y, they had the blue one and the red one. And the red one was obviously superior, but now you don't have to make that choice of which one you're going to get. It's just one. It looks real good.
I have right now the Monster Hunter new 3DS. And before that, I had the special edition yellow Pikachu 3DS. And I've seen all the X and Y ones and the Pokemon Black and White ones and everything. I am just not a fan of them using the standard PNG art and just throwing it on. Like the Pikachu 3DS is specific.
You prefer JPEG?
Right. Give me some JPEG. Don't give me any. So the Pikachu 3DS, like that design is specific to the 3DS. I mean, yeah, it's just a Pikachu head blown up, but like I couldn't just Google that art and find it. Like that Solgaleo and Lunala is what we've seen them in every pose. The only difference is it's a stencil art, but it's the same exact image. And they did that with Black and White, and they did that with X and Y, where it was just like, here's a Zekrom, and here's Reshiram, and it is the same exact thing you would see on Bulbapedia. Same with Yveltal and Xerneas. I don't know. I just want I'm just being picky when it comes to designs. Like I just would prefer something more custom instead of just your standard silhouette.
Well, you're right, because the one that they came out with that was Japan only, that we really should still be furious that we didn't get, was the one that had the artwork of, it was the gold 3DS XL or LL.
Oh, yeah.
With the like sort of the silhouette of Xerneas, and then all the trees, and then the starters were up in the trees, and then the backside had Yveltal like over some mountains.
I just
and
pulled that up right
starters.
Now
It's
that
so beautiful.
is some legit 3DS art. Why don't we get that? Like I'm looking at the red and blue ones. They're literally the art assets that Pokemon sends out to everyone of like, here's your official PNG of Xerneas.
Because you people keep buying it every time.
Hey, I didn't buy those.
Ugh. I actually bought two of those. Ugh.
You bought both of them?
I bought the red one for myself and the blue one as a gift for someone else.
I'm not saying the Monster Hunter 3DS is that great. Like the Monster Hunter 3DS is just a close up of some monster's fur, and then it's just one of the Monster Hunter symbols. I'm not sure which monster that is, but that gold Pokemon 3DS, that one's legit. The one we never got. So that's coming out. If you don't have a new 3DS XL, it might be worth upgrading if you like to collect Pokemon stuff. The new 3DS doesn't do anything that great. No games use that little nub besides like Monster Hunter and one other game. No one plays with the 3D on anymore. Do you play with the 3D on, Will?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I do use that little nubby on Monster Hunter all the time.
Really? See, I originally got a shell because when I play Monster Hunter, like my hands cramp. It's like one of the games. It's not like you're playing Pokemon where you could play Pokemon with a DS on the table and just kind of, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Where Monster Hunter, you're like gripping it and you're holding down multiple buttons and all that stuff. So my hands started cramping when I played Monster Hunter, so I got a grip. And the grip was nice, but I have smaller hands, so I couldn't actually reach the nub comfortably anymore. So because of that, I learned to just use the L button a lot, which refocuses the camera behind you. So I stopped using the nub completely. Then fast forward to like 2 weeks ago where I got a better grip, the official Monster Hunter Generations grip. And I can reach the nub again, but since I've taught myself how to use the L button, I never use the little nub anymore at all. I'm nub free. I got that nub free life.
You say potato, I say I don't eat a lot of starches.
Love starch. Let me tell you.
I know you do.
let me tell you about some more starch. There are new Sun and Moon cards coming to the trading card game. That was a bad transition.
I was waiting for it. I had hope. I hope.
Who's the potato Pokemon?
I would say Grubbin.
No, because that's not a vegetable.
I'm sure he's full of starch and electricity.
I demand a potato Pokemon in the Alola region.
All right. Alolan Meowth and Grubbin are the first two Sun and Moon cards shown for the trading card game. In Japan, the Sun and Moon collection will be releasing December 9th. And it shows the Alolan Meowth, which is a dark type, and it shows Grubbin, which is grass. Neither have anything fantastic about them. They're just kind of base cards. Grubbin is shown to have the move Vice Grip, so maybe that's something to take that, hey, possibly that line in the game will know Vice Grip. If you like cards, they're coming.
Yeah, I'll probably go to a TCG pre-release in January just to have fun. I like to go to the pre-releases because it's kind of like low commitment and fun.
Yeah, still. Where you're not like completely stressed out and you leave with something.
Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing more stressful in my life than playing Pokemon cards.
It is stressful because everyone's so mean.
You've never been to an official tournament for Pokemon cards, Travis.
Yeah,
you just don't know.
I know.
You don't want to be.
I was literally at an 8-hour Vanguard tournament yesterday, and it was so much fun. It's like just the amount of contrast to a Pokemon tournament. It was amazing. And it was just like, this is what TCGs are supposed to be. That's the end of my story. Go on.
Good. I almost forgot some news here, but I pulled it up while you were telling that amazing story. All right. I guess the big news related to the games this week is the English names for UB-02 Ultra Beast were revealed. An English trailer featuring UB-02 Absorption and UB-02 Beauty. The two new Ultra Beasts were revealed in this month's CoroCoro. UB Absorption, which is known as UB Expansion in Japan, will appear only in Pokemon Sun. The extent of its strength is unknown. Its entire body is covered with bulging, powerful muscles. Its long mouth is said to be harder than diamonds. UB-02 Beauty, same name in Japanese, will appear in Pokemon Moon. Its narrow legs allow it to accelerate with such explosive speed that people claim it can dodge lightning. It is said that any Pokemon that sees UB-02 Beauty, regardless of its own gender, will become infatuated with it and lose the will to battle. It is undetermined whether it's due to pheromones it exudes or a hypotonic effect induced by its appearance.
Hypnotic?
Hypnotic, yep. Hypno.
Nice.
Yes, solid. In the trailer, UB-02 is seen coming into the Alola region through a portal and fighting Tapu Koko in front of Hala.
But they also showed Absorption. Yeah, you said UB-02. That's right.
Yeah.
Oops.
Words. So Andrew Sensei, which I think is his Twitter name, but Andrew in Slack,
correct.
Mentioned that so far the three UBs we've seen were based off pests. Both UB-02 look like, UB Absorption looks like a mosquito. UB-02 looks like what, like a roach?
Does look like a cockroach. Yeah, it's got like two long antlers, and then the sort of back part looks like a cockroach shell.
Yeah, and then the first one's more of like a jellyfish, and he then linked an article, because when you think pests, you don't really think of jellyfish right off the bat. You think of more like mice or
well, it depends on how much you swim in the ocean.
Bugs.
If you've ever not been able to swim in the ocean because there was a field of jellyfish coming through, you'd understand.
When I think of pests, I think of like rats or people that try to talk to me about Game of Thrones.
But yeah, so he linked an article that pretty much said that I think it was Britain had like a jellyfish problem recently, and they kept referring to them as pests and blah blah blah. But I guess that's kind of this new thing where more jellyfish have been bothering more shorelines. I only read the article once and it was like a week or two ago, but I don't know. It kind of makes sense. Like, no one really likes mosquitoes or roaches or jellyfish. Like, I can think a jellyfish is great and beautiful when it's at a zoo behind glass and they're floating peacefully. I probably wouldn't want to swim next to one.
Yeah, if you've ever been touched by a Portuguese man-o-war, you would know what true pain is. Because I guess, yeah, a lot of people who haven't spent a lot of time around the ocean may not know that jellyfish have like this, their tentacles that fall off of them are like exude. I don't know if it's a poison or something, but it is extremely painful if it touches you. And Portuguese man-o-war is the worst and the most painful.
Yeah, so prior to the recent trailer that showed these UB-02s off, I probably would have been more leaning towards the Ultra Beast line was maybe something not catchable. Because Pokemon TCPI still has not used the word Pokemon when talking about Ultra Beast.
Correct.
But when they came through the portal and started to fight Tapu Koko, that really solidified to me that, these are considered quote unquote legendary beasts, like they did with like Entei and stuff, and they're just using the term Ultra Beast for now. But it made that trailer made it seem like, okay, like they're version exclusive, they're probably catchable.
I was wondering if they are not catchable and they act like bosses, like in between gyms or something like that.
Oh, so like getting rid of the gyms, having the 4 islands, and then these possibly being like bosses.
Oh, I didn't consider getting rid of. I was just thinking of them like Pokemon X and Y had that long stretch between, forget if it's gyms 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, but like you can imagine if you put like a boss fight in the middle there, it wouldn't feel as long of a stretch. And I was wondering, and my thought is that they might put these in between a few gyms to spice things up in the same way that they typically do with rival teams, have a chunk of the game in between a few of the gyms.
Well,
I think you're right.
You think so? You don't think so? Do you guys think they're catchable or no? Travis, you're gonna go with no?
I don't think they're going to be catchable. And I do believe they are part of the story, the overall story, and yeah, just like how in Black and White you had the interlacing of the story between the gyms, and you had to do like the sage battles and stuff as a boss battle between the gyms. That this is going to be along those lines.
All right.
That you'll have to have an Ultra Beast encounter and get past the encounter before you can move on to whatever your next thing is going to be. And because I just think, I feel like the Ultra Beasts are somehow extra dimensional, so that the rules of the Pokemon world don't really apply to them, and they're actually coming across and into the Pokemon world.
You don't think like Deoxys is extra dimensional?
Deoxys is from space.
And Deoxys is not a bacteria.
What about
virus?
What about Hoopa? Hoopa's whole gimmick is it like creates dimensions.
No, Hoopa's gimmick is that it bridges time and space, but it
Isn't that a dimension?
It manipulates dimensions. It doesn't come from another dimension.
Okay, so if they are Pokemon, then they're catchable. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? Every Pokemon is catchable.
Correct.
And that, I would say, that's evidence for the theory that they are not catchable, because it seems like they would call them Pokemon by now if that were the case. Also, I just want to make the point that UB-02 absorption is extremely unsettling.
Because of its like pointy mouth.
Because it's like a Johnny Bravo mosquito. I don't want any of this.
Yeah. they did mention that there are more Ultra Beasts than this. That was
because I'm UB-07.
that fair. That was something that was pointed out in the trailer. That I think they said like there could possibly be even more Ultra Beasts or something very generic like that. Do we want to touch on the gender thing?
There's a gender thing?
Yeah. So UB-02 is beauty. And then it says, regardless of its own gender, it will become infatuated with it and will lose any Pokemon that sees it, regardless of its gender. So male Pokemon, female Pokemon. I'm assuming genderless Pokemon. Do you think that? Well, I'm gonna say I think that's cool. Do you think that's a response to the amount of gender talk that's kind of happened in 2015, 2016, or that there is some real lore behind that? Because if there's lore behind that, they're going to be looking at more so something in myth or in legends that would state that, anything is... I just use something like Medusa. No matter whatever legend or story you're told, if you look at Medusa, you become stone, right?
I do not think that this is an attempt to be progressive or anything like that. In fact, if that were the case, it would be incredibly strange to try to be progressive about gender by saying here is a monster that all monsters are attracted to. Like that doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
I think it's more your second idea, that it's probably pulling from some mythology that doesn't come immediately to the top of my head, but just this general idea of, I guess, that beauty is thinking about it in as this like platonic ideal, that there is some concept of pure beauty of a beauty that's undeniable regardless of your proclivities. I think is maybe the idea that they're going for. I don't think this is
progressive.
Or like some attempt at inclusivity, because if it were, it would be very strange.
I would say in any way that it's would refer possibly to the 6 different types of love that were expressed in ancient Greek, which of course everyone is familiar with.
Yeah,
correct?
I mean, I have my ancient Greek book right in front of me.
You got your Eros, your
go for it.
Eros, Philos, or whatever the brothers one is.
Athena.
Wow.
Is Athena one?
That's a god.
That's a Greek name.
Dropped after 2.
There's the agape. You got agape.
Okay,
Cupid.
right, good.
That's one.
You got
All right, let's put everyone out of their misery. There is Eros, which is physical.
I would say 3 is pretty good for someone who has
except
no
that you are
training in Greek mythology.
Except you studied philosophy, which is highly based in knowledge of Greek society. Anyways, Eros being physical only, Philia, which is a very strong friendship, Ludus, which is playful or flirting, Agape, which is your overall love for humanity and the world, Pragma, which is love that has lasted for a long time, and this one's hard to pronounce, Philautia, which is the love you feel for yourself.
I got a lot of that.
You could say that UB-02 inspires a feeling of philia, which would make you not want to attack it. And it is a type of love.
Okay. No, that's awesome. That sounds better than anything we've had up to this point.
Bizarre gender politics?
Yeah, so yeah, there you go. There's your 2 UBs. They're the same in some aspect. I still, it's clear that Pokemon has shown us very specific things of the UBs with the intention that there's just not enough information. The words they've chosen, the images they've shown, even the trailer is very specific to enough to cause speculation, but not enough to validate anyone's speculation.
Yeah, it's clear that we're all very confused about what the UBs are and what they mean. I think that's what's clear.
I think the extra dimensional aspect that you mentioned that definitely gets conjured up in my mind as well when I think of these things comes from the naming convention of UB-01, UB-02. It sounds like some sort of government classification that's hidden away in an archive that we weren't supposed to know about, like some sort of X-Files thing.
Like Warehouse 13?
Sure. Is that show where like it's just a big warehouse and they find like spooky things every week?
Basically, yes.
That sounds like a good show.
I think my mom liked that show.
I loved that show. It was also in the same universe as what's the town? It was like the town on the West Coast.
Eureka or whatever?
Yeah. Man, those two shows were the bomb.
All right. Well, transitions exist. I don't have a good one, but when we come back, we're going to be talking about the 2 YouTube trailers for Pokemon, not trailers, shorts, animated shorts for Pokemon Generations. And we are back from our break to talk about Pokemon Generations. I think this is 18 episodes. So if you don't know what this is, Pokemon Generations looks back at each generation of the Pokemon video game series, diving into the stories of the games more deeply and getting to know the characters and the Pokemon better. Visit each region from Kanto to Kalos to relive the world of Pokemon like never before. Pokemon Generations will consist of 18 episodes, each running between 3 and 5 minutes in length. The first 2 episodes will launch September 16th, which was a couple days ago. And then they showed just this trailer that looked very much in the style of Pokemon Origins. And yeah, we have the first 2 trailers now. I think all of us have watched them. I watched them twice. I watched them actually right before we recorded. Just
first 2 episodes.
First 2 episodes, yes. I don't know if there's like an overarching premise here. Let me just read what the YouTube comment says, or the YouTube synopsis. So all these are on YouTube. They're on, you can just go to youtube.com/Pokemon. It's on the official page. The first episode, which is titled The Adventure, is from Viridian Forest to Terminus Cave. See the Pokemon world as never before. Oh, this is where I read it. Pokemon Generation revisits each generation of the Pokemon video game to shed new light on some timeless moments, from early day in Kanto to the splendor of the Kalos region. Go behind the scenes and witness Pokemon history with new eyes. These bite-sized adventures are 3 to 5 minutes long, will be released every week through December 23rd. So it will end on December 23rd. There you go. So I feel like that's 2 a week. Well, maybe
yeah, probably, because it's about
9 weeks.
It's
not 18
weeks December, 4 weeks.
18 weeks to Christmas. I guess so.
What? Do I need to start my Christmas shopping?
No, 4 weeks in December, 4 weeks in, let's talk about math here, November, and 4 weeks in October. Oh, that's 16, I guess. No, that's 12.
That's 12. And we still have
2 weeks
2 Fridays left in September. So that's 14.
And then did you already count the weeks into December that this will be? Because it doesn't end December 1st or whatever.
Yeah, I counted 4 weeks. So that must mean that there would be 2 episodes not released at that schedule. So I'm assuming that 2 weeks out of the next 14 will have an extra episode.
Well, no, also keep in mind, so right, we just counted 14 weeks plus the 2 that have already aired.
That's 16.
So that brings us up to 16. So then, yeah, 1 week has, or 2 weeks have 2 extra episodes. Sure, yeah. Why not?
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay, so the first episode already has 3.5 million views on YouTube. I think that's the only way to watch it. It opens with a version of Pokemon Red, very similar to how Pokemon Origins opened. And then right away, as every great trainer does, encounters a Pikachu, doesn't do any damage, just goes to the item slot right away, selects the Pokeball, catches the Pikachu, and that is when we transition into the animation, which is very good animation. And we also see not a new design, but a differently drawn Pikachu.
A different interpretation.
Yes, it
was a little chubbier, I think.
It's a bit more rounder of a head.
Yeah.
A bit more mouse than other
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe it. I like this episode a lot. I think I'll just give the basic premise and we can break that down. It starts with an unknown trainer, and really, besides the initial picking up the Pokeball, the trainer has nothing to do with this story. And I like that. We see the Pikachu go from region to region to places that we've all been throughout the series and battle Pokemon in a way we haven't seen really happen. And how does the trailer ends with Pikachu encountering a Zygarde.
Correct.
And so
it's back with the trainer at that point.
Yeah.
And it's Zygarde complete form, which hasn't really been shown before.
Right. We see Zygarde power up, and then the camera pans into the sky, and it comes down and says Pokemon Generation. I would actually say that this is more of an episode 0 in my eyes. This is just you would show this to maybe somebody who is very high on Pokemon Go but hasn't played Pokemon since the 90s. You would show this to somebody who, is maybe currently playing Red or Blue on their iPhone or something, or their computer because they jailbroke it or whatever. Obviously, this is fanfare for us being for loving Pokemon, but there's no real story here. It's more of a remember everything you've done up to this point.
I think that's a very good way to describe with taking away the second comment. I think that's a very good way to describe both of the episodes we've seen so far. They're pretty light on story. They're more like little vistas into the Pokemon world and nods to things we know from the games.
Well, and I would say the underlying subtext of the first one, the adventure, is the reminder that, right, technically you couldn't have, but that Pikachu that you caught in Viridian Forest, you could have had with you through all of this time and is now, like up to the point of X and Y, you could have had that Pikachu with you battling by your side the entire time.
Right.
Through all the generations.
I think if you break down the battles more clearly, those battles themselves are telling individual stories. I think encountering a Pikachu when we all played Red and Blue for the first time, I think was probably the most exciting thing we had, right? Because when you got the game, you knew kind of which starter you were getting. The excitement wasn't there. It was, oh my god, I want Bulbasaur. Well, no one said that. Oh my god, I want Charmander. Oh my god, I want Squirtle, right? And then to me, I remember very distinctly playing these games and going, the first Pokemon I want to catch is Pikachu, right? Because the anime was such a big crutch at the time of like, the anime is how I discovered Pokemon.
Yeah, but you also used a Master Ball and a Golduck, so I would be hesitant to universalize your experience.
And I also started with Pokemon Yellow, so I started with a Pikachu.
Okay. So
no, I do recognize that, because Pikachu is the first, if memory serves, is the first Pokemon that you encounter that has a low encounter rate, because
it's harder to find.
If I think back, I think that all of the Pokemon you see up to that point are pretty easy to find. Like they have like at the lowest probably like a 30% chance of seeing them or something. So it's like they're pretty easy to find. And then I think, doesn't Pikachu have like a 5% chance in Viridian Forest?
Yeah, that's the first time you find them is in Viridian Forest, and yeah, it's the hardest one to find in that area. I think you have Weedle and Pidgey and Caterpie, which are all very easy to find. Then you have Kakuna and Metapod, which are slightly harder to find, and then you have Pikachu.
So it's your first experience with rarity in the game, really.
Yeah. We move on to the second battle, which is in Johto. We see Pikachu battling 3 Wooper. I don't know why Pikachu's battling 3 Wooper instead of 1 Wooper. That's all right. But we see Pikachu Thunder Shock these Wooper, and the expression on Pikachu's face is, that didn't work. These Wooper are in water. Water is weak to electricity. Again, I think that is a throwback of our first experience in Johto and really seeing new types. That was the first time we saw, if I'm not mistaken, a water ground, a water type that is not weak to electric.
Yes, I believe that the Wooper is that first of that, correct.
We move on to everyone's favorite Generation 3, where we see...
Wait. You're skipping something important. After the Woopers strike back at Pikachu and he's falling off the tree, he bounces off of Lugia.
Yeah. They just use... Well, I think it's funny because they use the legendary Pokemon as the transition. So from Caterpie to Wooper, we see a Zapdos. From Wooper to Vigoroth, we see a Lugia. It's just, that's how they cleverly hid transitions, which I think is fine. We go to the Hoenn Weather Institute. We see Pikachu battling a Vigoroth. I don't have much memory with Generation 3. I played it after Generation 4, so I'm not... When I see the Weather Institute, that doesn't strike back any memories to me. They used Latios and Latias as the transition there. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about that. I mean, I thought it was a fine segment. I don't know where the Weather Institute ranks on people's familiarity with Hoenn.
Well, but that was Hoenn's thing. It was the introduction of weather conditions.
Oh, there you go. Cool. Yeah.
All I know is my friend gave me a level 100 Vigoroth. It's not a lie.
So that makes complete sense now. Generation 3 introduced the Weather Institute. We move to Sinnoh at Snow Point Temple. We see Pikachu fighting everyone's favorite. Is it Probopass or is it Nosepass?
I think it was Probopass.
The one with the mustache.
I remember the big mustache.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We see Pikachu fighting that, and then we see a Regigigas come up for the transition. Again, I haven't played Generation 4 since it came out. I don't remember the importance of Snow Point Temple.
Well, don't ask me because...
Okay. Travis, anything?
It was a long time ago.
I remember the area. I don't have a recollection of where it comes in the story or what
Generation...
purpose it serves. But I remember the whole like snowy region at the north of Sinnoh and all that sort of thing. Though,
is Sinnoh the one with the volcano with the grass that you go through and you can pick up the ash? Is that Sinnoh?
That is Hoenn.
That is Hoenn. Huh. Okay.
Sinnoh has Mount Coronet, the big mountain in the middle.
Got it.
Well, Snow Point is where you would encounter Regigigas. So, there you go.
Is that Regigigas' temple? Is that... I never got the Regis originally in the game. I wasn't sure if you're supposed to get all 3 Regis and then go there.
You have to bring them.
Okay, so you do have to get you do have to get the 3 Regis and then bring them to get Regigigas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. See, we all solve this together. Regigigas transitions into Unova. We see Pikachu acting as Nathan Drake here, struggling across this desert region.
This is my favorite part of the whole thing. Like the fact that he got to the sandy part of the floor and fell through, which was how you navigated that. Is it Relic Castle? Is that what it was called?
The Relic Temple, I thought.
Yeah, that I love that throwback or that whatever call out to that.
Yeah, I think to me it reminds me of how frustrating that temple that falling through the sand was.
It is Relic Castle.
Oh, is it? Okay. We see the trainer in the background. This is the first time the trainer appears since the Caterpie fight, if I'm not mistaken. And again, there's no focus on the trainer, which I like a lot because I think it's supposed... I'm strongly in favor of this trailer invoking your experiences with the game, because again, we're all saying like we remember this is what we remember about this generation. Like for me, falling through the hole in the temple and then going back up and then accidentally falling through it again, kind of frustrating. And so that's what this part of the episode reminded me of. Pikachu gets sucked into the sand, falls through, and encounters a Volcarona, one of Will's favorite Pokemon.
Yup, I was so happy.
One of the coolest battle sequences here is when Pikachu slams onto the floor and uses it as a shield, protecting itself from what I believe to be a heat wave. Volt tackles Volcarona into the slab, and then we see Thundurus a Landorus, as the transition into Terminus Cave for the Kalos region. And we see the minecart and a Noivern chasing that. And of all Pokemon, Noivern is the Generation 6 choice. I guess that's okay.
It's kind of the pseudo-legendary dragon dealy, maybe?
Sorry, I sneezed. No, that'd be Gudra. I had to mute myself because I sneezed. I like Noivern. I think Noivern's a really cool Pokemon.
Yeah. He's okay. It's a Noivern.
One of the few Pokemon that can learn Boom Burst.
Well, but also Noivern is the one that you encounter in that series of caves around where Zygarde is. So,
I mean, as much as I like Kalos, I wouldn't say that the minecart area of Kalos was the part of the game that stood out to me.
Well, because you're not a completionist and you didn't have to walk all of those different paths and figure out that stupid maze to try to get to every different area in that cave.
I feel like the part that really screams Kalos was the tower, the wannabe Eiffel Tower. But that's just me. Finally, the Noivern disappears and we transition to the trainer and Pikachu walking up to a giant crater in the ground. We see Zygarde complete form there, powering up, pushing back Pikachu, and then floating into the sky, which then brings us to the generation title screen. Hard to tell which region it was floating out of, but
presumably Alola, given that Zygarde complete or 100% or whatever it's called is in Sun and Moon and not X and Y.
Well, I don't think so, because the transition is the trainer and Pikachu get off of the minecart, and that's where Zygarde complete is, and then he's rising up into the air out of the ground.
Yeah, the clouds come in really fast, but there was no bodies of water around the area. But again, that's just I don't know what the exact scale was for that. Yeah, I liked the first trailer. I keep calling them trailers because they're so short. I liked the first episode a lot. I think that it really hit home on a lot of those generations and the feels, especially for me, Kanto, Johto. Did you guys have any other final thoughts on that? Or anything else you wanted to mention? I feel like I talked a lot, but I was just trying to break down the trailer.
Well, I'm just very happy to have seen Volcarona featured.
You two really like these things, don't you?
Yes. Oh, no.
I think they're animated beautifully and they're done very well, but I don't really like, I guess, and I might have talked about this on the show before, but I'm not the type of Pokemon player that can name all of the gym leaders in basically any generation. I'm not the type of person who...
I bet you could do Generation 1.
Don't try me. I'm not the type of person who gets immersed in the environments of the Pokemon world. There are certain fictional worlds that I love, and I love learning more about and exploring, but even though Pokemon is my favorite game series by a mile, my enjoyment of it has never been very closely tied to locality or those sort of like spatial experiences, or even really the lore of the series. It's not something that's grabbed me. When I have been grabbed by things about Pokemon other than character designs, the Pokemon designs, the gameplay, it's the game's stories when they are interesting, like Generation 5 was, not the sort of background information or the setting, which kind of both of these shorts have been focused on sort of just adding to the lore of the universe. So it's not really. I think they're both pretty and they're both well done, but neither of them have a story to tell, and that's kind of disappointing to me.
Did you see the 4 episodes of Pokemon Origins, Travis?
Yeah.
And how would you compare that series to what you've seen so far of Generations?
It's been quite a while, but I liked Origins.
And besides that, like you probably haven't seen an anime episode in a while.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I've caught a few here or there. I mean, I've seen a few of the newest incarnation, and I saw a few. I mean, for pretty much every incarnation of the show, I've seen an episode or two.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I think that's an interesting dynamic where the lore or the animation of the stories is something that Travis obviously just said that is not his draw, whereas Will, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you definitely like the stories that are being told, especially if you look at Black and White and Black and White 2, which are the most story-oriented games. You really enjoyed that, and I don't, but I'm a big fan of the lore and why Pokemon exist in the world and relate to each other. I just don't care for the forced story in my Pokemon journey, if that makes any sense.
I think it's interesting because both of us made a pretty strong distinction, and I realized you were asking Will a question. Here I am talking, but I think it's interesting that we both made the clear distinction between lore and story in the Pokemon games, because I think there is a pretty clear one between the actual story of the game and then digging into the places and how they fit with each other.
I like the story.
Me too, and I don't really like the lore. Although, ask me about Elder Scrolls lore, and I'll be sitting there for 20 minutes about Boethia, Prince of Plots.
Yeah, and like, I don't know how to. For some people, they might not know the difference between story and lore, which is kind of hard to break down. I'm trying to think of like 2 clear-cut examples that would be very easy to point out. I think
story is Harry Potter defeating the villains in each book. The lore is knowing about knowing the potion recipes, knowing the things that Harry learns in herbology class, or knowing about all of the beasts in the Harry Potter world. Story is the main narrative focus of fiction, and then the lore is the background information that makes that story feel real because it's placed in a real world. And that's especially true of fantasy fiction, because it's the world sort of needs to prove itself, as opposed to fiction that's more grounded in the real world typically doesn't have lore because it doesn't need to establish the world we already live in.
Right. I would say that we had a debate in our Slack community last week about this, and I don't know how it got started, but my complaint with the story in X and Y is that the story in X and Y is a saving the world story. It is that this cannon is going to go off and blow up the world, and your job is to stop it. And I liked X and Y a lot. I hated that aspect of it. When I started playing Red and Blue, when I got into Pokemon, it wasn't because I wanted to save the world. It was because I wanted to be a Pokemon trainer. And I felt like Red and Blue, and even Gold and Silver and a couple other games, it felt like my journey of becoming a Pokemon trainer and being, quote unquote, the best there ever was. Because when I beat the champion at the end, I felt like I am the best Pokemon trainer in this game. I didn't sign up to save the world. There are plenty of other games that do the save the world mechanic, like every Final Fantasy, and Final Fantasy is a great example. You buy a Final Fantasy, you know what you're getting every time. You're getting the save the world story every single time.
You're getting a scene where the 2 main characters lean across a railing and do fake laughs for about 60 seconds.
So when I buy a Pokemon game, I want that experience. I want the experience of, I signed up to be the best Pokemon trainer, and I didn't sign up for a save the world story. Now, my problem with X and Y was that the story leaned into the lore in a way I didn't like. the story was saying that the only reason this cannon works is because we need an Xerneas or we need a Yveltal to power the cannon. I didn't play both, so I'm pretty sure they just flipped the two Pokemon. And I didn't like that because I feel like most legendary Pokemon don't need story to make their lore interesting. Like Mewtwo isn't mentioned really at all in the first game, besides subtle hints and like the diary that you find on the island or in the Sylph Tower. But when you discover Mewtwo and when you find Mewtwo, and whether you catch it or not because you wasted your Master Ball earlier, Mewtwo still has a lot of lore, where when you think of Yveltal and Xerneas, it's hard to think about them without going, well, they were used in a tool for the canon, which was part of the story, which just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Pokemon, I have no idea what you're talking about, so.
I know, I get it. I can understand that having a Pokemon that's supposed to be this quite literally legendary creature that represents either life or death, depending on which one we're talking about, so firmly connected to this particular crisis plot seems to might devalue its status as the of Xerneas as the bringer of life if your only connection with it, if it has a connection to the story that is only solving the plot, that it's sort of cheapens that. I don't really feel that effect because I feel like the Pokemon games do enough to show that these Pokemon have sort of other responsibilities, or that their relationship to you, even if you catch them, is like they've been doing a lot of stuff before you caught them, especially with like Gen 4 with Arceus creating all of the lake spirits and Dialga and Palkia and Giratina. But to your other point, Pokemon has the same narrative confines that a lot of sequels tend to have, or a lot of series with multiple sequels, where you are always expected to be at least as the climax is always expected to be at least as threatening as the previous entry in the series, if not more. So
they got to keep upping the ante,
right? And you can only, and it becomes sort of a you can only go so far as saving the world,
right?
That you sort of get to the logical conclusion of saving the world in every entry, and Pokemon already basically got there in Gen 3.
But I feel like Gen 4 didn't have it save the world.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a villainous team that's trying to like reset the creation of the universe or whatever Team Galactic was trying to do with Dialga and Palkia, which I would think is similarly.
Glad that you remembered that finally, that they wanted to create a new universe. Yes.
But I mean, that's not saving the world. Create your own universe. Go there. Have fun. I'll still be here training my Pikachu.
I would consider that a similarly existential threat. Personally, while I do get that it does sadden me that sequels tend to have that narrative restriction. Not really restriction, because they can do whatever they want, but expectation is probably a better word, because I would like each entry to sort of speak for itself. I don't get too disappointed with it as long as what they do with saving the world is interesting, and I think Generations 5 and 6 have both had interesting stories. And I guess Generation 5 wasn't really about saving the world, but it was about saving the current world order of the relationship between trainers and Pokemon. And I guess that Team Plasma wanted to take over the world, not necessarily destroy it. But I'm getting off on a tangent.
I think it just devalues your legendary Pokemon to put them in a situation where you have to catch them. Like in Black and White, you couldn't not catch Zekrom or Reshiram. And so you're giving everyone a legendary Pokemon for free, ultimately, and you're not giving them the opportunity or the challenge to get what is considered the top tier Pokemon. Like getting to Mewtwo or finding Articuno or going out of your way to find Zapdos. Or I guess Moltres kind of existed. No one really went out of their way for that. But those Pokemon all felt exciting capture. They didn't feel like they were just randomly placed. Like the journey to get to them, I think, at least to me, was extremely memorable.
I can see that point, but I think I can see that the mystique gets a little broken when it is a scripted element of the plot that you catch these Pokemon. But I feel like that same mystique is broken in all of those cases when then a battle later you're instructing Mewtwo to use Psychic. Like, if this Pokemon truly is this high and mighty world-controlling beast, then why does it listen to you?
Because of friendship and love.
And I guess that's why the lore of the Pokemon games have always not really taken me, because there's so many inconsistencies, so many strange things about how they interact with the mechanics of the game that it doesn't feel like it's even trying. It feels like half of the time it's trying to be a real world, and then half of the time it's trying to be like tongue-in-cheek. It's like,
yeah,
I'll start that sentence again. Part of the time it's trying to be a real world that you believe in, and I can respect that. If you want to do that, then do it, but then don't go and bend the rules of your world just because the mechanics dictate it, and don't bend the rules of the world just to like make a meme joke as a reference to the real world, which bothers me in the Pokemon series because it's not consistent with what they're trying to do. That there's too many breaches in the world building for me to really care about it, and I think chief among those are the very mechanics of the game that I love. Like, I am not really going to buy that these places are real places if, you know, these Pokemon that they talk about as gods are just like in my pocket currently.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel real.
That was my other complaint with the X and Y story, was we have this powerful Pokemon powering this cannon that can destroy the world, when it's already been established in the lore that a Pokemon like Mewtwo or a Pokemon like Deoxys could easily do that on their own because they are that strong.
Really? That strong? Do you think Deoxys could destroy the world?
Yes. I think enough Pokemon could stop Deoxys from destroying the world, but it is clearly proven in the Generation 6 story that a 10-year-old trainer could stop a giant cannon.
Deoxys is not that strong. Not even half of its forms are even meta.
Oh, totally. So I will take this back one step to Ultra Beasts and the island challenges and all of that biz. I think that in doing that, the Pokemon Company or Game Freak is trying to restore some of the mystique to the games, because once again, we're entering into a game and we don't know what to expect, right? There's no more expectation of legendary trios. I think that's gone out the window. So you're not going into the game looking for the predefined, okay, what is the legendary trio for this one? Which is the equivalent of the legendary birds, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a whole new world that we're going into, and hopefully we will be as delighted as we were for Red and Blue.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just worried that these Ultra Beasts are purposely based off of the characters we've seen, and that's weird. I don't know. Like, the only other comparison is Mewtwo is kind of related to Giovanni, but not really.
Like, are they like cousins?
Like, you can take or leave that. Like in the very first movie, how Giovanni tried to control Mewtwo with the equipment, and the reason that Mewtwo is in Cerulean Cave is because it ran away, and that's where it ended up going. And, like, Giovanni was the one that paid to have Mewtwo created, if I'm not mistaken. He was the one that paid the scientist. Right.
In the movie, definitely, yes.
Yeah, I think that is also in the game. I don't know. That's all right.
I can't
I
say.
think it's also in the game, because I feel like
ask me something about the Mundus. Give me the Elder Scrolls, and I can give you the answer.
Let's talk about the second trailer. It is titled The Chase. It has 2.2.
It's an episode, not a trailer.
Yeah,
you call it the second short.
The second short? I keep saying trailer. I feel like it's leading up to a bigger story. It has 2.2 million views, which doesn't make any sense. How does it have 1.3 million less when these came out on the same day? I don't understand.
Maybe people saw episode 1 and thought I don't want any more of this.
Yeah, maybe. Also, episode 2 was uploaded before episode 1 by like 10 seconds.
Well, why would you watch episode 2 first if you saw the title episode 2?
That's maybe. The description is Detective Looker of the International Police uncovers critical information in the hunt for Team Rocket boss Giovanni. Walk through this. Again, I don't think really much happens. It starts with Looker and some mustache police officer with no name talking about getting Giovanni and breaking down the game corner. Game corner, obviously, Team Rocket's hideout in red and blue. They don't make it clear why they break down the game corner, besides to get
because
Team Rocket.
It's their base of operations.
Yeah,
and they freed the Pokemon that were being held there against their will.
But let me gamble. Don't kick me out. There are.
That makes no sense at all.
They're unsure where Giovanni is. This is the first literal minute of the episode is talking about they broke down the game corner. They still can't find Giovanni. They do the weakest plot point of Giovanni's men will not tell us where Giovanni is. They are extremely loyal. Let's move on.
It's just 4 minutes of Looker talking to people who look like SWAT team people and then walking into an empty room, touching an explosion, and then you see Giovanni for a hot second, and then it's over.
Yeah,
touching an explosion.
Well, the debris from an explosion. I'm sorry.
The remains of a
We've been recording this
battle.
for already almost an hour and a half. I'm sorry I didn't get every word perfect for you, Will.
So we went from we don't know where Giovanni is to we broke down the game corner to we're interrogating Giovanni's men. They're super loyal. They won't tell us where Giovanni is. To all of a sudden, we know Giovanni is now the gym leader.
Yeah, there's just some dude who says he's been spotted in the Viridian Gym.
Like the first,
he's at a computer and he turns around I just got an electronic mail.
This is the worst.
I got an AOL instant message indicating that Giovanni is in fact in the Viridian Gym.
This is the worst minute and 20 seconds ever of how did we get here? So they put a bunch of spotlights on Viridian Gym, and they bring out a SWAT team, and they state that Giovanni is a powerful Pokemon trainer. So we need 50 plus riot gear security guards to come here to break into his gym. Full SWAT team. This doesn't work. Bringing the SWAT team is ridiculous. I guess all it shows, I feel like what they're trying to convey is Giovanni is extremely powerful, and that's why we need this many men. But at the same time, it references that 2 people have beaten Giovanni up to this point. Red and Blue, Ash and Gary, whatever you want to call it, those are the 2 people.
All right. I promise you, anytime you're making a raid on a mob boss's location, it's going to be a lot of SWAT police officers involved.
I think it's cool that they have an Arcanine, they have a Machamp that are, ready to SWAT it up with the SWAT team.
The best thing about either of these shorts is the part where the Machamp full-on Kool-Aid mans through a wall and smiles at the camera.
So they spread out into 3 groups. We know in the Pokemon lore that the gym leaders are pretty much the people in charge of the town. That's at least how it's kind of broken down in the hierarchy of the Pokemon world. I don't understand how Looker, who is a detective, is the worst detective in the entire world to not know that Giovanni is a gym leader. And whether or not it's kept secret, how at this point has he been a gym leader so long that he has recently or only given out 2 badges? I find it hard to believe that the Elite Four has existed as long as they have, and the only way to get to the Elite Four is to have 8 badges. And recently 2 people have beaten Giovanni, and that's how we suddenly know. The history of the Viridian Gym clearly has been a mystery up to this point.
No, I will give you some small, I will call them apologies, because yes, the program was not perfect. But one thing that Looker does comment on arriving at the Viridian Gym is the Viridian Gym was supposed to be closed. So potentially Giovanni went in and wasn't really supposed to be the gym leader, or he had basically been neglecting his duties for a long time and only appeared there as a response to his initial encounter with Red, and now wanted to challenge this up-and-coming Pokemon trainer who had impressed him so much with his Pokemon training capabilities to offer him a badge.
But Steve is kind of right, just in terms of how it comes off, though, because it's not like, because you do get the one line from Looker that establishes like this place was supposed to be closed, but it almost seems like he's saying like, I didn't know this place was open, not how, like not no one knew this place was open. It's like, so I think I think you're both right in the sense that they do include that line to give you the context, but I'm with Steve in that it does kind of feel like, someone is like, Mr. President, it turns, according to these records, El Chapo has been president of Juarez, has been mayor of Juarez for the past 40 years.
Oh.
Like
it doesn't, the way the rest of the series sets up gym leaders and gyms is that they're this institution that's perpetually around. Like how did people even go to the Kanto Elite Four if the Viridian gyms are spent? Like, there's no discussion of that. None of the details really fit when you think too much about them.
They were on a break.
It's okay. Even if Giovanni,
why are they standing there when you get there?
Even if Giovanni closed the gym, clearly he was a gym leader prior to the gym closing. Like, you just don't become a gym leader, instantly close it, and then prevent everyone from getting to the Elite Four. Like, other people have gotten to the Elite Four before you.
That's a dark story that remains to be told, how the once good-hearted and noble Giovanni was turned to darkness.
This is a raid. I understand the raid aspect of things. This is a public building, I believe. I feel like gyms are public buildings, like libraries or courthouses.
Or the YMCA.
Let's just melt the wall with an Arcanine, and then let's also Kool-Aid Man through the other wall. But gosh forbid we don't damage the front door. We just break the lock and kick it open. And Looker, the only one without body armor or riot shield, is the first to go in. Which, again, boggles my mind. It's just silly.
Well, that trench coat he wears is made from Nibblesnarf skin, so
I will say, though,
immune to bombs.
The hack on Might, really cool, nice little subtle feature.
The what?
Magnemite hacking it.
Hack on Might?
It didn't hack anything. It stuck its little
It
probe
just
in the
fried,
wall
yeah,
and
just-
overcharged it.
It just fried the glass doors that didn't get damaged, but good old Machamp smiling through a wall, and good old Arcanine just melting. And let's go back to we need a cannon to destroy the entire world. Arcanine melted pure concrete with a flamethrower.
Yeah, but then he was real tired after that.
Was he? I don't know.
Yeah.
Pokemon are real strong. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, how many PP does Flamethrower have?
He melted the concrete to the point where the concrete was dripping molten lava.
In defense of Pokemon's continuity on that specific aspect, I would say that the Pokemon world does seem like some sort of strange post-scarcity utopia where healthcare is free, no one is poor. Like Pokemon do all of the work. So
Healthcare is free, no one is poor, and law enforcement of dubious quality.
So Looker with a Growlithe behind him, unclear if that is indeed his Pokemon or not. encounters the gym arena of Giovanni, discovers Giovanni's not there. There is like some black goop on the ground, and they call that an explosion. I'm unclear.
It's supposed to be like the charred floor from an explosion
of like a Pokemon trainer battle, or
yeah.
Okay. I mean, that brings up the questions of, do we replace the floor every time there's a Pokemon battle? It just makes it unclear of how these arenas are.
It's a post-scarcity economy. They can afford it.
This is how everyone stays in business. Battles break down. People have work because they need to replace the floor. Machamp comes running through the door with a big old smile on his face because he's happy he Kool-Aid Man through a wall.
I don't think the floor was ruined. I think it was just like remains, of the battle on the floor. So it just needed somebody to like sweep, mop it up.
The janitor gets in business. We go to this.
There you go.
We go to this pan out to Giovanni, looking back at Viridian City, saying that Team Rocket will never be defeated. Team Rocket will never fall. We get a close up on his evil eyes. He puts a fedora on, and then he walks away.
Proof that he is evil.
It's just the overall. I get it. They have 3 to 5 minutes. I don't really understand what that episode is trying to accomplish.
Well, it answers the question of like, you continue playing Pokemon Red or Blue, but Giovanni never gets caught. So it kind of like fills in why wasn't Giovanni caught? Oh, because he got away. So there you go.
Well, now that question's answered. That mystery has been solved.
I mean, if anything, it just makes Giovanni look strong. And
Giovanni is strong.
No, I like that. If there's any characters in the Pokemon universe that I want to know more about, it is the gym leaders.
And the bike shop people. What's their deal? Why do they put these exorbitant prices on things if they're just going to give them away? What is going on there?
Yeah, I mean, it makes Giovanni look good. If your looker was first introduced in Generation 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you are mistaken.
He briefly in Gen 4, especially in Platinum? He's at least in Platinum, if not Gen 4 generally.
Yeah, he's definitely before Gen 5.
You think Platinum, though, but not base series Gen 4.
I'll look up if it's
I think you're right.
Platinum. I think he might be just in Diamond and Pearl briefly and then expanded upon in Platinum, but I'll look it up.
Will, what does Looker do in the games? Break it down for me.
Well, he's just moves the plot along. He is an investigator for an international policing organization. So people he asks you as a strong trainer to help him in his investigations. So he's basically he is the post game in Black and White, definitely.
Yeah, that's the last one I heard about him the most was post game Black and White.
Turns out he's not in the base games of Diamond and Pearl. He's introduced in Pokemon Platinum.
Is there anything specific he's notable in Platinum for?
Oh, he's investigating Team Galactic.
Okay. Based on his investigations in this 3 to 5 minutes, I'm still going with the thought that he is one of the worst detectives ever.
He does act as a bit of a comic relief character in a lot of instances.
All right. Well, let's take a comical relief break, do a little music. When we come back, we'll do our Pokemon of the week, and there's one small news article I missed, and we'll talk about that real quick, but we will be right back. And we are back from our break. Last break here. I missed 2 news stories, but they're really short. Before I get to that, I do want to say we're doing a special promotion for Patreon. If you sign up for our Patreon this month, patreon.com/it's super effective. I am giving everyone a gift that signs up for any tier, whether that's $1 or $5 or $100, doesn't matter. At the end of September, I'll send out a survey to everyone. You pretty much fill in your name, your address, and a couple other questions, and then I'm sending everyone free gifts. So even if you're a $1 Patreon, all you gotta do is fill out the survey, and you'll get buttons, some stickers, and some other stuff. Some other packages will have shirts, and some other packages will have some other stuff. It's not really like a lottery. Everyone's going to be getting stickers and buttons. It's just that I'm going to include gifts specific. I'm going to include unique gifts in every other package. So some will be shirts plus buttons and stickers. Some will be some other stuff. That applies to everyone who is currently on Patreon or any people that sign up for Patreon this month. So you can just go to any of our episodes, it's in the episode notes on SoundCloud. Or if you go to PokemonPodcast.com, there's a little support button that'll take you there. Or you can just go to Patreon.com/itssupereffective and sign on up. We had a lot of people sign up last week, and a lot of people, usually when people sign up, they send me an email right away and they go, "How do I get in the Slack?" The Slack messages take anywhere between 12 to 48 hours to invite you. So I would. You don't get invited right away. It does take a day or two. So just watch out for your email when you sign up for the Patreon for that invite to Slack, and then we'll get you all taken care of. If it's been more than 2 days, then definitely reach out, because it's possible that it went to your junk folder, or I might have to reinvite you under a different email. So let me know. But for everyone who has signed up, thank you so much. I appreciate it. The 2-bit of Pokemon news we missed is the Pokemon Go Plus is out now. It is available. It is probably extremely hard to find. I did order one on Amazon. My Amazon delivery date is this Wednesday, so I should be getting it this week, and I do plan on doing a review of it and taking it out and making it work. So I've done some Pokemon reviews up to this point. If you go over to our YouTube page, youtube.com/PKMNcast, and you can see some of those, but next week we'll talk more about the Pokemon Go Plus. The other bit of news I forgot is that the CoroCoro, besides revealing new Ultra Beasts, they also revealed Rockruff's evolution. And it looks like Rockruff will evolve into a Pokemon called Lugarian?
Gurren Lagann.
Lugaringagon?
Wait, what are we talking about?
Giant robot anime, obviously.
Wait, we're not talking. We're not. I would zoned out because it wasn't important to me. We're not. Why did we start talking about Gurren Lagann?
Because Rockruff's evolution is called like Lugarugon, something like that.
Oh, okay. Now we're all on the same planet. Got it.
Its appearance will change whether it evolves during the day or whether it evolves at night. They're not two different Pokemon. Think of this more as Meowstic. The male and female Meowstic are the same. They just look different. And this is going to be the case for Rockruff's evolution, the name I can't say. It says that this is actually from Nintendo Life, because they took the images off Cerebi, and Cerebi got them from CoroCoro. But they say it's safe bet that they will have differences in combat. The magazine has teased that it would reveal a secret about Rockruff that is shared along with the Alolan region starters. While this could be a secret, Rowlet, Litten, and Populo could also have separate forms based on time of evolution.
Interesting.
This is still unsure. I'm going to say the Sun evolution, because it has a lot of orange around it, a lot of yellow around it. They're werewolves. So if you listen to my PAX episode, I found some Wikipedia articles, and I based Rockruff off a certain type of dog that is known to get rabies very easily. It's also one of the dogs that are very similar to have werewolf or wolf-like characteristics. But yes, these I would say that the Sun evolution is quote-unquote more of a wolf, and the Moon evolution, which if you look at the scans, it has a lot of blue around it, a lot of darker colors, which makes me think that this is, obviously the Night evolution, is more of a werewolf-looking Pokemon. They look very different, a lot like the Meowstic line, where male and female look pretty different, but not much else is said about those.
So it is Lugarugon. Lugarugon.
I'm assuming it's something off lichen.
I think something, along those lines. Midday form, the sun form, learns a move called Excel Rock, which is a new move, and the midnight form learns a move called Counter. So they will have different moves depending on which evolution you have.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Travis, but the Meowstic lines have different moves, whether it's male or female.
That is correct. They have completely different movesets. Yep.
There we go. For those who like wolves or werewolves, your Pokemon are now here. I would safely, I would bet that the day form is ground something, but the night form I feel like is dark ground or ground dark.
Wasn't Rockruff rock type?
Yeah,
I
think
sorry,
it's going to maintain
rock.
its rock typing.
Rock. I don't know why I thought ground. Because he has rocks around his neck.
Because it's called Ground Rough after all.
Ground Rough. Good old Ground Rough. Okay. Let's move into our Pokemon of the week. I'm going to throw it right to Travis again. We're going to mix it up.
This time, I guess because there was a Vigoroth in the Generations short, we're doing Slaking, however you want to pronounce it.
I feel like we've done this before, but that's all right.
Slaking has such good stats. It must be amazing. Well, there's one large problem, and that's its ability, Truant. Truant is an ability that only Slaking possesses, where your second, fourth, etc. turns having Slaking out, it will, instead of doing the move you instruct it to use, do nothing, as it is loafing around. So every other move you make will not actually do anything. So even though it has great stats, it's very difficult to utilize because you can't really afford a Pokemon that can only attack every other turn. However, we're still going to try to make it work. It's worth noting that you can still switch out after you make that first attack, so perhaps
base stats are so high.
Yeah, its base stats are incredibly high because its ability is probably... actually, Slow Start might be even... Well, no, I would say that Truant is worse than Slow Start.
So also, as a point of correction, its pre-evolution Slackoth also has Truant.
That's true, yeah, I guess you're right. Vigoroth is the only one in the line that doesn't have it. I forgot that Slackoth also had it. I think what I was saying, yeah. So you can still switch out after that first turn. So if you use an attack your first turn, you can switch to another Pokemon and then not really have the disadvantage of having to wait for the Truant turn. But that might require you to make a switch when Slaking is the best Pokemon to have out. It's kind of predictable that you're not going to want to do nothing, so you could be easily punished for it. So you're put in a bad spot. So there's two schools of thought for your first move. You're definitely going to want a very strong normal type move for same type attack bonus. First school of thought is the one that is a little trickier with your ability, which is Giga Impact. The thought here is, if I'm not going to be able to attack my second turn at all, I don't care about the fact that Giga Impact needs to recharge. So I can. I'm only attacking every other turn anyway. I might as well use Giga Impact. Very strong move. Can take out Pokemon. It can take out a whole bunch of Pokemon, even defensive ones, in like 2 hits. Very strong. Problem is, you can't switch out after you do that and do the thing I just talked about. So your what you gain in base power, you lose in some versatility. The safer option, although I think it's a lot less fun, a lot less cool, if you wanted to be safe and be able to switch out after you use your main same type attack bonus move, you'll go with Return or Frustration, depending on if you want your Slaking to like you or not. That also requires you, if you're not RNGing or playing on a simulator, to actually make your Slaking love you. Good luck with that. Your second move, so we kind of are going on a similar line as we went with, what even was our Pokemon of the week last time? Was it Snorlax? No.
Yeah, it was Snorlax, yeah. I thought it was Snorlax.
I think we did something after that. Anyway, we talked before about a Pokemon with a pretty poor move pool that was normal type. It was something that had guts. What did we talk about that had guts?
Raticate?
Raticate.
Yeah, here we are. So Slaking is on the other side of Raticate. Raticate was trouble because it didn't really have any good type coverage to be able to deal with things that normal types typically can't. But luckily with Slaking, you do have access to Earthquake. That covers Rock type and Steel type, two types that you would only be not very effective against with your normal type moves. And you actually still have an option for Ghost types. You actually have two options. One is Pursuit, if you're trying to take out the trickier Ghost types that are more sweeper-oriented, that are trying to get in and get out and deal some damage. Or if you want to just deal with the bulkier ones, the bulkier ghosts, you can do Night Slash. Night Slash is a little more generally effective, so that's probably what you'll want to go with, although Pursuit can be quite effective against certain opponents that you anticipate will switch out a lot, or certain team compositions that require that. For your last move, and this is where I'm going to deviate a little bit from convention, I'm going to say Slack Off here, not Slack Off, not its pre-evolution. I'm going to say Slack Off. It's the move that recovers your health by 50%. I realize that it's kind of risky given that you're essentially going 3 turns. If you attack your first turn, slack off your second, that's 3 full turns that you're not dealing damage to your opponent, and that's kind of rough, and you're just taking 3 hits and it might not end up helping you. But if you can get a slack off to go off when you expect your opponent to switch, that can be very beneficial. That's why I recommend it over something like Encore or something that might be typically recommended, which is your another good option as well. I also I'm not very compelled by the fast by investing your nature and EVs into speed. Granted, 100 speed is nothing to be ashamed of. That it's going to outspeed a lot of Pokemon, especially with investment. But you have so much HP already in your base pool that it makes a lot more sense to me to invest your EVs in HP. It means you might be able to survive a few more hits to have more than one turn of action. Just makes a little more sense to me. I'm sure people, the people who make the canonical move sets and things on places like Smogon know better than me. But if you're trying to run Slaking, you don't really care what those people think anyway.
What if can I throw a wrench in your moveset?
Mm-hmm.
If it was a double battle, what if you use one of those moves that switch abilities with Slaking?
Yeah, you can do that.
Is wasting that turn valuable enough because of how high Slaking's stats are? Not really wasting, but taking the turn.
You could do some interesting things with it. There's two. I guess there's one main problem I see. First, you have to run a Pokemon. I guess it's 2 problems. First, you have to run a Pokemon that knows Skill Swap generally. And if memory serves, there aren't a lot of great Pokemon that know it. I'm looking. Actually, no, it's a TM, so apparently a lot of Pokemon can get it. So scratch that problem. I would say the main problem is that even if you're skill swapping, you still end up with a Pokemon that has Truant because you just swapped it onto your other Pokemon. And
how's about this alternative?
Yeah.
Cough Egregious.
And have Cough Egregious attack your Slaking?
Or have Slaking touch Cough Egregious.
Oh, yeah, other way around, yeah.
What if... Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. If this is a silly question. If I skill swap with Slaking and I now have Truant, let's say my Pikachu skill swapped. I know Pikachu can't learn it. And then I bring back my Pikachu, and then I bring my Pikachu back out. Does he still have Truant, or does bringing him back reset his ability?
The ability would be reset. You get your original ability back.
There you go.
If you can pull it off and you can get those setup turns going, it can be a very powerful effect. But I would say more often than not, you're going to run into trouble getting that set up. There's too many, there's Pokemon with Taunt, or there's heck, you're talking about double battles, so a fake out is a very real thing that's just going to happen and ruin your dreams. The stars would have to align for that first turn to go the way you want it to, I would say. It's very cool if you can pull it off, though. I don't think I really had anything more for the single set other than to say I would invest your EVs into HP and attack and then give it something like an adamant nature.
I mean, like on paper, Slaking looks great because of how high its HP is and how high its attack is, and it's almost like you could take a turn off because, one, you could survive that turn, and two, because you can pretty much one-shot a lot of things, I feel.
Mm-hmm. But you run into problems because, okay, so let's just go through the scenario. Even with the fast variant of Slaking, where you're investing in speed, a lot of Pokemon that are played competitively have speed stats that are above 100. 100 is not a terrible speed, but it's the same speed as like Mew, and you don't typically think of Mew as like a hyper fast Pokemon in the scheme of things. So you're going to be outsped by a lot of stuff. So you use your Giga Impact your first turn. You might even you probably even one-hit KO a Pokemon with it. The next Pokemon comes in, it's something fast, like let's just say it's they switch into
Mega.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something that's super effective against it because they're obviously going to go into like something with a fight. They switch into
Hitmonlee.
Yeah, they switch into Hitmonlee. They use whatever fighting move they have in the moveset.
High jump kick. That's such a bad move.
High jump kick is very good.
Isn't it like 80%, and then it also has a recoil?
I believe it's 90%. It does not have recoil. If you lose the 90%, then you take half of your damage, or if it deals no effect for other reasons.
If it misses, you take damage, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But it has such high base power that it still gets used on many sweepers because they don't care that much about their health total because they get one shot anyway. Anyway, sidetrack. So Hitmonlee uses high jump kick, takes you down probably more than halfway. It's super effective, and then it outspeeds you on the next turn, and high jump kicks you anyway. So it's after all of that pomp and circumstance of having this Pokemon with an incredibly high attack, it ends up just being a 1-for-1 trade. Granted, if you didn't run Giga Impact and ran Return or something, you could switch out that second turn, but then you're giving your opponent a free turn to deal damage to whatever Pokemon you switch into. So it's sort of a bad situation either way.
But I think that was one of your best analysis you've done.
Thanks.
You've walked through some situations. I like that. Slaking, however you want to call it. During most of the day, Slaking lolls around and sleeps. It is considered the laziest Pokemon, but even when it's lounging, it is saving energy. It can exert a lot of power by releasing built-up energy at once. It can regain lost energy through the use of its former signature move, Slack Off. Slaking lives in forests, where it feeds on grass and ripened fruit that falls from trees. It only moves around when there is no food within its reach to eat. And if you get a shiny one, it is like a blue... No, it's more like an orange back. He kind of has like a light blue mane, I would say. And the shiny one is more of an orange mane. And the nose is a little more pink.
Hitmonlee is actually slower than Slaking. Just thought I would throw that out there. I just found that out.
I find that hard to believe, but okay. The trivia here is Slaking has a lot of similarities to Regigigas. They're both normal type Pokemon. They both have hindering abilities, Truant and Slow Start. They have the highest attack-based stats out of all normal type Pokemon. They also have the same base stat totals. Outside of legendary Pokemon and Mega Evolution, Slaking has the highest base stat total of all Pokemon, even surpassing pseudo-legendary Pokemon by 70 points. In a double or triple battles, one can nullify Slaking's Truant ability with either Skill Swap or Gastro Acid. Several trainers in Pokemon Emerald use this power, including Norman, during the player's rematches with him. The final boss in Pokemon Coliseum also did the same tactic. Without Truant, Slaking can make full use of its impressive stats. This can also be done in single battles using a contact move with a Pokemon like Kothagrigus. That ability's Mummy. And in pre-alpha sketches, it depicts this Pokemon as a pre-alpha sketch depicts a Pokemon that bears a striking resemblance to Slaking. Obviously, this is an audio podcast, but oh yeah, it does look like it. It looks like
I just love the experience of the listener just hearing Steve not even try to provide a visual description of what he's seeing and just going, "Oh yeah."
So
it's a real rudimentary drawing.
It's a really rough drawing. It's really cute though. So Slaking is in this article with Tyranitar, and so you see it looks like it was sketched on like a napkin, but you see it looks like a little baby Kangaskhan. It's obviously supposed to be Tyranitar shooting a little fire out of his mouth, and you see what looks like Slaking, except it looks like a bear with a baseball cap on. And it says nothing is known about the first Pokemon, Godzilla Knight. It may have been a fire-type Pokemon, as shown as it's breathing fire. As its name implies, it is likely based on Godzilla. Godzilla Knight notably shares a resemblance to one of the fake Pokemon toys shown within the Pocket Monster Magna. I can't feel like I'm saying.
There you go.
Manga. Volume 1. The Japanese name of Tyranitar is also based on Godzilla. Nothing is known about the second Pokemon, Gorillamo. It could be a reference to a character from a game called Ape Inc. Anyways, it's supposed to resemble...
So the default name in not Earthbound, but I believe the first Mother game, the default player's name was Nintendo.
Got it.
Which is like a joke about Nintendo being in the same way that in Earthbound or Mother 2, the default name is NES, which is like a reference to the NES.
Oh, I know. Oh gosh, I feel really silly.
Maybe I have it backwards. I forget which, but I think that's how it works.
I didn't think that NES's name was based off the Nintendo Entertainment System. I guess that makes sense. It all comes full circle. It resembles a Nintendo character, Donkey Kong. Gorillamo could also be based off King Kong. Later generations may have included ape-based Pokemon. Slaking is the most notable that shares physical traits with Gorillamo. So there you go. I guess that makes sense though. Like, if you go back to the drawing, it kind of looks like Godzilla versus an ape bear with a baseball cap on.
Definitely a baseball cap.
It's definitely a baseball cap. No doubt in my mind that that's not a baseball cap. Man, all these like old sketches of Pokemon look incredible. I love everything about this Bulbapedia page. I think we have to do a whole episode on it.
Oh Lord.
Everything here is fantastic.
Oh, not the Jigglypuff thing. That's just
that Jigglypuff
disturbing.
drawing is really disturbing. Yeah, that Charizard drawing's really legit though. This is making terrible podcasting material. Well, I think that wraps up our episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Yeah, patreon.com/itssupereffective. Everyone will get free gifts if they sign up for the month of September. Travis is at the Travis W on Twitter. Will is at Washing the Sink on Twitter. I am at Dragging a Lake on Twitter. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at Pokemon Podcast. And if you haven't done so already, please leave us a review in iTunes. That helps a lot. And if you want more Pokemon Podcast content, we do an actual play podcast called Mythical that is also in iTunes and SoundCloud and anywhere else podcasts are found. Otherwise, this has been another This has been another episode of the Pokemon Podcast, and we are
super effective.
Super werebeasts.
What a dirty dog.
Hey there, Pokemon Podcast listeners. Do any of you play Minecraft? Did you know that you can play Pokemon on Minecraft with a mod, Pixelmon? Join the Pixelmon server that cares about bringing you the best Pokemon experience out there at play.journeygaming.com. Journey Gaming has 4 different Pokemon servers themed after the regions Hoenn, Sinnoh, Kanto, and Johto. Check out their website at journeygaming.com or jump right into Pixelmon experience on their server at play.journeygaming.com. I want to give a shout out to Pure_Riddle for this sponsorship over at journeygaming.com. Thank you so much for supporting It's Super Effective.